Hello there ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's Alexander Hilly123 here and it's time for a new video. And as you can see from the title, today it's time for my Elliott Smith ranked worst to best. If you guys want to see what other albums from bands and artists I've ranked in the past, click on my channel, have a look at the playlists, albums ranked worst to best, and see what I've done so far. This is the first singer-songwriter that I've done, to be honest with you, and reason being Smith is indeed one of my favourite of all time. I've done a lot of rock bands so far, but I do one of these about once every 3 or 4 months on the channel. I don't want to saturate the channel with these kind of videos, but once in a blue moon, once in a new moon, ladies and gentlemen, for the Smith fans out there, I'll do these, but once every 3 or 4 months. So, Mr. Elliott Smith, born 1969, unfortunately died at the age of 34, 1 year older than what I am now, in 2003 from a self-inflicted stab wound to the chest. And if you don't know Smith's music and who he is, you must be thinking, goodness me, that's absolutely crazy. He was indeed a troubled man, a lot of drug abuse, and many issues, I do believe, probably some of which were not even diagnosed. Absolutely gorgeous music. We're talking melancholic, we're talking morose, sad, quite bitter and angry as well, but putting across in quite a quiet way. In my opinion, one of the things he was best at. Absolutely phenomenal. And throughout his career, he made 6 full-length LPs. One of them is a posthumous one, which wasn't quite finished, kind of like Jeff Buckley with his second album. And also there's a B-sides and compilation album, which I mentioned before, which is called New Moon. Now, when I've done these videos in the past, I do believe that people look at these lists and go, okay, you know, when I did my Sabbath one, when I did my Radiohead one 3 or 4 months ago, I think it can be a bit cliche, my list. Of course, it's just my list. We're all fans of these bands and artists. People are going to have different lists. That's absolutely fine. I know in 2023, having a different opinion to someone else is a controversial thing, but we're going to have a different opinion. I've got less to say about my less favourite albums, so my apologies. I'm going to brush over the ones I don't like as much. And to be honest with you, I probably should have listened to Smith's discography before doing this, but I didn't. So I just want you guys to know that there are certain tracks I look at here. This is an iPod classic. Oh, yes, it is. That on Either Or, that's his most legendary album. Some of my favourite albums as well. I don't want to give my track listing away yet. My order away, I should say. I look at the track listing and I'm like, yeah, I know that song off the top of my head. But with my least favourite 2 albums of Smith, I love most of the songs. These are all great albums in their own right. Even my least favourite album is still very good. But I just want to tell you guys, there's some tracks to look at and I can't even remember what it sounds like off the top of my head. So my apologies, that's not great. But yeah, if you click the See More button, I'm going to leave a timestamp as to when I start talking about each album. And also a link to my favourite track in the album, and the reason that I've got my MP3 out here is just in case I want to listen to a few songs and just maybe talk a little bit more about them. Where are we now? So, yeah, 6 LPs altogether. This one was Roman Candle in 93, 94. The last one was From a Basement on the Hill. He was actually born Stephen Paul Smith, not Elliott Smith. I don't know why he chose the name Elliott Smith, but it was something about he didn't want to be known as a jock. He thought that Stephen Paul Smith was like a jock name. And that's very much American terminology. Here in the UK, we don't use that term whatsoever. I don't even know fully 100% what it means. I think it's someone who plays a lot of sport and is a bit of a douchebag. So people called Elliott could easily be that. It's just subjective. It's a name. But, you know, like I say, he was a very troubled man and it was just his decision, wasn't it? So he can do that. But also, with the self-inflicted stab wound, don't want to get onto this too much, but there are some people who think his girlfriend did it. They were arguing apparently beforehand, and as such, some hardcore fans don't believe that he killed himself. But I personally do. But if you want to look at that online, ladies and gentlemen, it's all there. But we're talking about the music today. One of my favourite musicians of all time, to be sure. Like I say, don't get salty. This is just my ranking, because coming up, my least favourite Elliott Smith album is his posthumous album, From a Basement on the Hill, released in 2003. And like with a heck of a lot of musicians who start out melancholy, someone similar like Leonard Cohen, for example, it's an acoustic guitar, it's lo-fi production, and then they build it up album after album. And that's what Elliott Smith quite simply did, ladies and gentlemen. But by this stage, obviously I only got into Smith, by the way, in 2011, 12 years ago, when I was about 21. And I started on his discography from like Either Or, then I went back the 2 albums, and then went forward. So I think this was the last album I'd listened to. And although I still like this album, although I think it's pretty damn consistent. He never made anything less than a very good album. I personally, with this one, just feel like I'd heard it all before. I feel like some of the more melancholy tracks don't work. I feel like there's a little bit of inconsistency within the track listing. Like the last song on the album doesn't feel like it should be a finale, for example, something along those lines. A distorted reality is now a necessity to be free. That's a great title track as well. I absolutely love that track. It's one of my favourite on the album, but I don't really feel like it fits the bill as a final song. Coast to Coast is my favourite track here. It's 5.5 minutes in length. There's another song on here that lasts 6 minutes. These are much longer songs. You have a look at the personnel and who worked on the album. There's a lot more people helping out here. Poetry reading, someone called Nelson Gary on Coast to Coast. There's a bit of spoken word there, and there's quite a lot of other musicians. And in his last 3 albums, this posthumous album and on EXO and Figure 8, I do believe there are a few like classically trained musicians as well who are helping out with the kind of jazz instrumentation and a little bits and bobs, putting that into the mix, and it worked really well overall. But I guess at the same time, Smith's music, it never really changed that much from the beginning to the end, not dramatically, but I do like that. I mean, I like all kinds of music. I've got the heavy metal band behind me, but with Smith's type of music, the thing that I love the most, and I don't want to give my order away straight away, that early era, there's just something so special about it for me, and this goes away from that a little bit. But when there are tracks that remind me of his earlier stuff here, it doesn't do it for me as much. A Passing Feeling, Little One, that is a beautiful song. Love that. King's Crossing, A Fond Farewell, Pretty Ugly Before, Let's Get Lost. These are okay tracks. I just find it a little bit more inconsistent. I'm so sorry, guys. It's my least favourite Elliott Smith album. Still love it, though. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a controversial one. This is, for a lot of people, his best. Not for me, though. I still love it. It's XO, released in 1998. And in 97, ladies and gentlemen, I think in between Either Or, which is his third album, and this album, his fourth album, XO, he performed, I do believe, at the Grammys, I think it was, or even Madonna. He was on stage with Madonna, and it's just like, what is going on here? This is so weird. And he kind of blew up, sold a lot of albums, probably not comfortable with all that attention, I don't doubt, but he made a fuller sound, something a little bit easier for the mainstream to get into, and completely and utterly without sacrificing what made him great or selling out, no doubt about that. This is a very consistent album, 14 tracks on here. This is running in at 45 minutes in length, starting up with Sweet Adeline, which I've got to say might just be it's my second favourite on the album. My second favourite on the album, or one of my favourites on the album. The first half of this song is melancholy, and it's very quiet and subdued, and then it explodes, kind of the same way that Cupid's Trick did on his album before this, Either Or. That becomes like a rock song with a heavy guitar in the second half of the song, and this isn't quite like that, but it kind of reminds me all the same, and it's like the two halves of his discography, I do believe. Tomorrow, Waltz 2, which has got a lovely jangly feel to it, and around this era especially, the last 3 albums, he's mixing in a lot more piano, and it works really well. Pretty damn good piano player. I'm no expert. I don't play, a musician. I don't play an instrument, I should say, and I never have. I just love music. But the guitar and the bass and the piano with his last 3 albums, jangling about together, it always felt natural, and yeah, this album does that really well. Baby Britain, it was the second single on the album. I like it. I don't tend to listen to it on shuffle or out of the context of the album. Sometimes you listen from an album front to the end. That's what we should be doing here when I'm ranking these. And Baby Britain, I quite like it. It's not one of my favourite Elliott Smith songs, but when I listen to it in the context of the album, really like it. If I want to listen to it independently, it doesn't do it that much for me. Pitzela, that is a beautiful song. Independence Day is great. Bled White, that one doesn't do it for me as much. Waltz 1, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely astonishing. It's my favourite song on the album. I think it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever made, where Elliott's kind of putting some backing track harmonies of his own voice, some ahs and some oohs, the voice of an angel, me, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. And he does that a lot throughout his discography, but especially on the last 3 albums, works really well. It's absolutely glorious. And I've got to be honest with you, one of the reasons why this album I think is one of my less favoured, I should say, with Elliott Smith, is the ending of the album. I like some of these. Amit is brilliant. But Oh Well Okay, Bottle Up and Explode, great song name. A Question Mark, I like that one a lot. Everybody Cares, Everybody Understands, and I didn't understand. I feel like the album just trails off a little. I feel like if he cut this album 4 or 5 songs and then added 1 or 2 more that were heavy hitters and really good, then it would have been one of my favourite Elliott Smith albums. It's still great. I don't mind the fuller sound. I just feel like the ending is a little inconsistent. And that's why XO is my second to least favourite Elliott Smith album. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I did say I'd listen on my MP3, but I really want to know, because the next album, I'm looking at the discography, and this is a contentious one. When you make these kind of lists, and if you guys have never done this, you won't know where I'm coming from here, but believe me when I say, if an artist like Elliott Smith here has made 6 albums, your favourite and your least favourite, there's a distance apart. But when you get into the middle here, obviously this next album is my 4th favourite Elliott Smith album, and looking at the 3rd favourite one, people will be surprised by the one that's on number 3. It's very, very personal to me. It's very important to me. It's very simplistic in its approach and lo-fi, but I just love it for what it is. I don't think many people will agree with me, but that's absolutely fine. But I love all these albums all the same. What I'm saying here, this next album, which is called Figure 8, could easily be number 3 instead of number 4. But I'll speak about that in a moment. But yeah, Figure 8, released in the year 2000, running in 52 minutes in length. So this was after XO, which I wouldn't call his breakthrough album, but obviously it was getting more acclaim. I remember he spoke in this year, I do believe, in the year 2000 to Louis Theroux. Some people know who Louis Theroux is. I remember seeing that interview a few years ago on YouTube, which is interesting. And he was getting more attention. And it says here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to read a bit of the Wikipedia page for you. I like the idea of a self-contained, endless pursuit of perfection, but I have a problem with perfection. I don't think perfection is very artful, but there's something I liked about the image of a skater going in this endless twisted circle that doesn't have any real point. So the object is not to stop or arrive anywhere, it's just to make this thing as beautiful as they can. And, you know, a lot of artists these days, in the modern day, they're obsessed with ambition and making something that's not similar to the last album, and that's all well and good, but sometimes I think that can become a bit of an obsession. I don't think it did for Smith, and I don't really know why I'm saying this now, but maybe that's what his mindset was at this point. Let's not make something that I did before. And I don't really feel like there's that much to differentiate an album like Figure 8 as to XO, but why am I putting this ahead of XO? For me personally, I think this is more consistent, and I absolutely love with this album the mixture of piano and guitar together and a few of the kind of jazz instrumentation. If you look at the personnel on the album, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. Rolling bass drums, string arrangement, marching bass drum, guitar loop, harpsichord, Hammond organ, pump organ. There's a lot of organ here with piano. Little bit jazzy, not full on jazz obviously, but it really works well, and I love the balance of melancholy and the kind of shit that was on his first 3 albums with songs that have your head bopping a little bit, a bit of toe tapping, not that much heavy guitar in here, but that's absolutely fine. Son of Sam, one of my favourite tracks from Smith, very catchy indeed. And let's have a look here. Somebody that I used to know. This ain't gotcha, ladies and gentlemen. This is Elliott Smith. But I'm not really speaking much about the lyrics. To be honest with you, I don't really want to. I'm not somebody that goes really in depth with lyrics. And I know this is a singer-songwriter, but, you know, Elliott Smith isn't Bob Dylan, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm not going to do so. What I would say with Smith's lyrics is sometimes they were very easy to pick apart and know what he's talking about, and sometimes they were very vague and out there and like, what the hell's this about? And that's great. I think he had a great balance of making a song which might be melancholy and you think, oh, this is so beautiful, and then the lyrics are very aggressive, and then vice versa. I think he was a clever lyricist. I think overall, a lot of them I don't try to pick apart, but I look at and I think, what the hell is he talking about? And then some songs are a straight up love song, or they're about drugs, because, you know, a lot of the time they were about drugs. Probably the thing maybe keeping him going, unfortunately. But yeah, It's important to mention here as well, the reviews for this album weren't quite as strong as his early stuff. Pitchfork Media, although I'd love to strangle everyone at Pitchfork Media, to be honest. All Music, I mean, 3.5 out of 5 is not bad, but I feel like this album's a little bit underrated. I really do. I feel like this one's seen as maybe his worst, but I don't think so. I am, and I have been for a while, on the Elliott Smith Reddit page, and my lord, are they fanatical on there. And every so often, people always do it. They put a poll, what's your favourite Elliott Smith album? And it tends to be Either Or is the first one. From a Basement on the Hill is very popular. But the fact that everyone has their own favourites should say it all about how good this guy was. But anyway, Junk Bond Trader, absolutely love this song. Let me just listen to this one, actually, because I think this is what I was saying before. Pardon me. Yeah. Piano, boom, 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 boom. Dancing with a guitar, that's absolutely glorious. And then Everything Reminds Me of Her. Everything Means Nothing to Me. Now, the imagery in this song is absolutely bloody phenomenal. I adore this song. Just Everything Means Nothing to Me repeated in the chorus. Now, that is pure depression right there. Beautiful lyrics at the start. It's so simple lyrically, and yet it's so beautiful. It's absolutely phenomenal. One of my favourite Smith songs for sure. And then after it, you've got LA, which has got a great groove to it, dare I say. And also, later on, after In the Lost and Found, which has a great off-kilter jazzy feel to it, you've got Stupidity Tries. So I said that American, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't pronounce the U properly. Instead of saying stupidity, I said stupidity. But this is a glorious song. I love that outro. Absolutely phenomenal. Easy Way Out, great. Wouldn't Mind Me Be Proud, I like it. Colour Bars. Some of these tracks in his later albums were really short, but with a lot of musicians, the shorter tracks are kind of more throwaway. Not with Smith. Not at all. Colour Bars, yet again, the guitar and the piano dancing about together. His gorgeous vocals. Very softly spoken, ladies and gentlemen. Smith, not the strongest singer. And you might think, well, how does that translate after his lo-fi beginnings in his career? Well, it works pretty damn well, to be honest with you. Sorry, it's getting dark in this room, ladies and gentlemen. Mid-March, and it's snowing outside. You just could not make this up. You could not make it up. A bit more like that. Pretty Mary Kay, that's quite good. I Better Be Quiet Now. Wish she gave me her number. Unbelievable. Can't Make a Sound. Okay. And then Bye, which is a beautiful closer. I was mentioning before with From a Basement on the Hill and even XO. I don't think the end of the album makes sense. This does. It's an instrumental, and this piano, it's in the distance. Feels like it's breaking down. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it's called Bye, so it's beautiful. Figure 8, ladies and gentlemen, I adore the album. I can't believe I'm putting it at number 3, but that's the strength of this man's discography. But it could have easily been at number 3. And I want to talk now about my third favourite Smith album, because it's Roman Candle. It's the debut album, and there's only 9 tracks here, and this album is only 30 minutes in length. A lot of people have this as their least favourite Smith album. A lot of these songs sound similar to the other songs on the album, perhaps. I said there's less diversity within this album, but I don't give a shit, because it's absolutely amazing, and perhaps it's his most melancholic, but dare I say it's also his most angry. And like I said, because these are my more favoured albums, I want to speak about them a little bit more in depth, and this both reminds me simultaneously of someone like Pink Moon, Nick Drake. If you don't know Drake, well, quite simply you should do. Pink Moon lasts about 30 minutes as well. It's very succinct, it's very to the point, astonishing guitar playing, finger picking. This isn't Ed Sheeran going like that singing about women, ladies and gentlemen. This is true skill and artistry. Sorry to be holier than thou, but it's got to be said. This is just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. All these tracks are nearly under 4 minutes in length. It doesn't outstay its welcome. And Smith's music, obviously, is very dark and dismal at times in terms of its lyrical output. Songs about depression and, like I said, just downright anger and dislike and disdain, really, for people. And on Genius.com, I'm just looking at the lyrics website, Genius.com here, it says, the debut album, well, he was still a member of Heat Miser. If you don't know, Heat Miser was the band that he was within, and he stayed in that band until 1996. Its unexpected success caused tensions within the band, which ultimately led to its dissolution, and I've got to say, I'm really glad, although I do quite like Heat Miser's last album. I never liked it as much as Smith's solo music. Smith performed and recorded Roman Candle himself on his 4-track tape recorder. What? Giving the album its lo-fi, folky flair. When first submitting it to his label, Cavity Search, Smith did not expect any more than a 7-inch single to be released, and was thus surprised when the label asked to release the record in its entirety. The album received mixed reviews, apparently, some dismissing it as a Simon and Garfunkel parody. In the years since its release, the record has received widespread critical acclaim. I don't get the Simon and Garfunkel thing at all, though. I like Simon and Garfunkel, don't get me wrong. They had some, like, you know, the Sounds of Silence, for example, but Simon and Garfunkel were never as scathing as Elliott Smith is. I don't think these people have looked at the lyrics in depth that much, because, like I say, although I'm not somebody who pulls apart the lyrics that much all the time, with this album I think you've got to understand it fully. He played himself, didn't need me to give him hell. He could be cruel and cruel to you and me. Knew he'd put up with anything. I want to hurt him. I want to give him pain. I'm a Roman candle. My head is full of flames. And then it says here, I'm hallucinating. I hear you cry, your tears are cheap. Wed hot, red, swollen cheeks fall asleep. You know, I understand, I guess, why some people have this as a least favourite, but these songs, they're very personal to me. I know it's cliche, but we've all been there. I've listened to this album at some pretty dark times, ladies and gentlemen. It brought me great comfort at my lowest ebb. I've been listening to this album, you know, when we need something to pick us up. For me personally, I don't want to listen to something happy-go-lucky. I don't necessarily listen to downtrodden music because I feel that way, but sometimes you do. And this album just makes me feel a lot better. Roman Candle, unbelievable, that guitar. The production, obviously, as we've already discussed, is not the best, but it doesn't matter for the kind of music that it is. It works fine. Condor Avenue as well. Like, are you kidding me? Have you heard this track? Gorgeous guitar. Not quite as scathing as the song that came before it. Very catchy as well, though. I find that this album's very catchy. You know, when I did my totally different kind of artist here, ladies and gentlemen, but when I did my Catatonia albums ranked worst to best, an album called Discouraged Ones is my favourite Catatonia album, and it's not really one that's well liked within the fan base. Now, if you don't know Catatonia, that album is very much like The Cure, only more depressing. It is absolutely outrageously dark, inspired by Slowdive and those kinds of early 90s shoegazing bands. And it sounds like all the tracks are kind of similar. Roman Candle kind of reminds me of that. I just love these tracks. No Name 1, love the guitar tone. Down, down, bam, bam, bam. No Name 2, these are all called No Name, ladies and gentlemen. Killing Time, Won't Stop This Crime, brilliant, gorgeous. I can understand why people don't like this as much, but it means so much to me, guys. It really does. No Name number 3 now, what's this one? Oh my god, it's only the best song on the freaking album. Actually, my favourite song on this album is Roman Candle itself, but for me, No Name number 3, it's got a little bit of that beauty that we would see after this album. You're a witness, you. You've seen me interrupt a good old-fashioned fight, so come on, night. Everyone is gone home to oblivion. There's not much lyrically going on in this song, but it's just so lovely to listen to. Drive all over town. Even the name, he's driving all over town and he's looking for her, ladies and gentlemen. That is the lyric here. And it's 3 a.m. He wonders where in the hell she went. Yet again, it's kind of angry, this one. It's a little bit scathing. Teeth clenched tight. Enough said. But it's beautiful as well. Oh, you can say how excited I am to talk about this album. No Name 4, Adore It, maybe one of my least favourites on the album. And then Last Call, he was sick of it all. That's what Elliott Smith singing now. trying to crawl into my skin when I already shed my best defence. It comes out all around that you won, and I think I'm all done. You can switch me off safely while I'm lying here waiting for sleep to overtake me. Oh my days, it's absolutely phenomenal. And then Kiwi Mad Dog 2020, which is an instrumental, and I absolutely love this. And I didn't actually know that this is an alcoholic drink, but it is. Maybe Elliott's favourite. Absolutely gorgeous instrumental. Guitar playing that feels a little bit more what was to come, really. It's more of a fuller sound. And I've just noticed I've not used my iPod for a while, but the songs are stopping. This happened in the past, and I have a feeling this is on its last legs. Please don't go. Ladies and gentlemen, album number 2 now. We're moving on. And for a lot of people, this is going to be their favourite Elliott Smith album. It's my second favourite Smith album. I've got my vinyls just there under that Resident Evil poster, but I can't be arsed getting it out. I've got the number 1 on vinyl from Smith, and I could easily have this album. I mean, fuck, I could have any of these albums on vinyl, I'd be happy. It's not number 1, but you know I love it. It's his third album, Either Or, released in February 97. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Food's repeating on me. Just had my dinner. This is his third album. We just spoke about Roman Candle and all that it entails. The production here, it's a lot better, but it's still melancholy. It's still angry. It's still pretty downtrodden. But there's a glimmer here, ladies and gentlemen, that Smith is going to go on to bigger and louder things on tracks such as the second half of Cupid's Trick, for example. I'm just going, even though my iPod I think is on its last legs, and I'm going to possibly break down and cry on video. It's done this in the past, and then it stopped doing it. I've got to basically click the play button to start it again. It's on its last legs, I'm telling you. Running speed trials. Now, this is in probably a random order. It's not going to be in the track listing order. This album is phenomenal. It's consistent. It's balanced. Smith's vocals sound great. We've got a few more people working on the personnel here, but not too much. Alameda, great. Ballad of Big Nothing, beautiful. And come on, mouse, start working. Do 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 do. Throwing candy out to the crowd, dragging down the main. It's really catchy, but still dark at the same time. Absolutely love that. What have we got next? Pictures of Me. He's sick and tired of these pictures of himself, ladies and gentlemen. No Name, number 5. Yeah. Now, obviously, on Roman Candle, there was No Name 1, 2, 3, and 4. So maybe this is a throwback to that album. It's very chill, very melancholy indeed. Very stripped back and lo-fi. Maybe a throwback to that first album. Unbelievable. Rose Parade. Beautiful. Puts a smile on my face immediately. But even with that smile on my face, ladies and gentlemen, one of the lyrics here, where is it? When they clean the street, I'll be the only shit that's left behind. Oh my days. Crazy. Punch and Judy, beautiful. Angeles, bit of ambience there at the start of this track. Absolutely heartbreaking, beautiful track. Cupid's Trick. Now, I mentioned it before, but this track, the second half, you've got a bit of a rock groove there. This guy could rock if he wanted to. He could probably do a full rock album. He never really did, but I would have loved to have seen it full of like more harder rock songs. I think he was capable. 2:45 a.m. Roman Candle, who was talking about 3 a.m. You know, where he's following all over town. Here we've got the song called 2:45 a.m. I don't know if Smith was a night owl like myself, but it just gives it a nighttime feel. This album, his early stuff, has got a nighttime feel, a winter feel, dark feel. And then the album, I've got to admit it, I like this song a lot, but Say Yes, possibly my least favourite track on the album. Just saying, still love it though. My favourite track of this album though is indeed, where is it? I've put it down to Ballad of Big Nothing. I just absolutely love this song, really do. You can do whatever you want to, whenever you want to, though it don't mean a thing, big nothing. beautiful. Now, before we talk, and this is a pretty weird way to end this, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologise, I'm just closing these browsers down here. Well, tabs, I should say. I've got so many tabs open. The computer is not thanking me. I just want to talk about the B-side compilation and random tracks called New Moon, which was released in 2007. Oh my god, after his death? What the hell? I never knew that. Forgot about that. Recorded between 94 and 97. This is running in at 73 minutes in length. Altogether, there's 24 tracks here. Disc 1 seems to purely be B-sides. I don't know where these tracks exactly came from. I do apologise. But what I will say is some of Smith's best tracks are on this compilation. I don't want to speak about it too in depth because we're running in at 30 minutes and I want to keep this under 40 minutes. But ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know Smith's music and you get into it and you think, these are B-sides, they're going to be pretty throwaway. Absolutely none whatsoever. Nice balance. Obviously, this was recorded between Roman Candle and his third album, maybe just a little after. So it's mostly lo-fi, melancholic shit. Angel in the Snow. I think it's one of my top 5 Elliott Smith songs. It is utterly gorgeous. I love that imagery. I'd say you'd make a perfect angel in the snow. It's just so beautiful. I could listen to it all day. 2 minutes 30. Or 2 minutes 40, I should say. High Times, really good. Looking Over My Shoulder, I like. Bit of that Elliott angst there coming through. There's some songs I wouldn't call anything throwaway or not good, but there's a few songs that I can give it a Big Decision. That one sounds like it's a little bit urgent, just because of the guitar playing. Placeholder's good. New Disaster, Seeing How Things Are Hard, Fear City. But I've said it before, Pretty Mary Kay, the other version, this is its own thing. This is phenomenal. I absolutely love this song. Gorgeous finger-picking guitar playing. Almost Over, See You Later, and Half Right, which I think was a Heat Miser song initially. Just wanted to talk about that, ladies and gentlemen, just in passing, because obviously it's not a full LP, so I wasn't really talking about it within the ranking. But if I had to rank New Moon amongst his other albums, I'd put it somewhere down the middle, maybe between Figure 8 and Roman Candle. Not entirely sure, but it's a bloody great album. But the album that I've got on vinyl, you all know it by now, of course. It is the self-titled second album released in 1995, running in at 38 minutes in length. Incredibly similar to his debut, but only the production's a little better, the songs are a little stronger. Even the album cover is phenomenal. A little bit of what was to come in the future with his music being a little bit more of a fuller sound. I think it's incredibly consistent. It's downtrodden, it's a little bit aggressive in that quiet, understated Elliott way. I think this is utterly phenomenal, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is a masterpiece. I think it's his best album. And a lot of people, if they don't say this is his best, they say it's up there. I think Either Or would probably be the #1 for most people. I might indeed have a look at other people's Elliott Smith ranked worst to best, because I haven't done so yet. Because I know the list will be very different to mine, and that's absolutely fine. But this album, I just, I said before with Roman Candle, I listen to it in dire straits when I'm feeling down. This album is one of my go-to albums for whatever mood. It doesn't really matter. It's one of the most repeated albums that I go back to and listen to. There's certain albums and bands that I've got into well over a decade ago that I don't listen to much anymore, but that music still means a lot to me. But with Smith, all his music, but especially this self-titled second album, I go back to it all the time. I think it's utterly phenomenal. The reviews here are pretty good. Even Pitchfork Media gave it a 9.5 out of 10. They were feeling kind that day. The pricks. The album opens up with Needle in the Hair. We're at 34 minutes in length, so I want to keep this under 45 minutes at least. But you won't be surprised if I talk about my favourite Elliott Smith album a lot, will you, ladies and gentlemen? Let's enjoy this. It says here, Smith employs heroin as a metaphor here, and on many songs on the album. It does sound like that. And how do you make sounds and music sound like drugs? I can't really articulate it, but I know what this person is saying on Genius.com. But, I mean, your hand on his arm straight away. Is that the needle itself, ladies and gentlemen? Goodness me. He's wearing your clothes, head down to toes, a reaction to you. You say you know what he did, but you idiot kid, you don't have a clue. He's angry again, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, I was speaking before about how much I love Nick Drake and Pink Moon, and that's like the ultimate melancholy, beautiful folk album. And it's so lovely, that, because it's a middle-class, quiet man as Nick Drake was. Beautiful music. If you've never listened to his music, you have to. But it's not, it's dark, but he's not angry. But Smith is angry. He's very angry, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that's why, if I had to say, would you rather listen to Nick Drake's 3 albums? Obviously, Elliott Smith's album is, or discography, I should say, is bigger. But would you prefer to listen to Smith or Drake until the end of time, but you got to never listen to the other? I think I'd rather Smith, because I love this anger that he portrays in a lot of these quieter songs. I just think it's so unique, and I've never heard anything else like it. I honestly haven't. Yeah, Needle in the Hay is fantastic. Repeated line of Needle in the Hay at the end. Now, Christian Brothers, I adore it. This is my favourite Smith album. I think it's a masterpiece. But Christian Brothers isn't one of my most favourite. The rock band Queens of the Stone Age did a cover of this, ladies and gentlemen, and I do recommend you listen to it. It contains, I'm just listening, or reading I should say, on genius.com here, ladies and gentlemen. The album is a similar musical style to Roman Candle, minimalist acoustic folk sound. Smith appears alone on his acoustic guitar, occasionally backed up with the harmonica, drums. The album's lyrics contain many references to drug use, which Smith claims are metaphorical. However, in some interviews he has admitted that they could be based on personal experience. The album cover features a photograph by J.J. Gonson depicting cut-out figures falling from buildings as if they were committing suicide, ladies and gentlemen. This is some dark shit. Next on the album, it's just one of my favourites. It's one of my favourites. And I guess somewhere down the line in this discussion on his discography, I've got to say, what is my ultimate favourite Smith song? Well, it's coming up in a moment. This might be my second favourite, though. Clementine. Unbelievable. The street's wet, you can tell by the sound of the cars. The bartender's singing Clementine while he's turning around the open sign. Unbelievable. Though you're still her man, it seems a long time gone. Maybe the whole thing's wrong. What if she thinks so but she didn't say so? Made an angel in the snow, a reference to that later song, ladies and gentlemen. Keep that song out of your mind. Oh my darling Clementine. Gorgeous chorus, whispered vocals, the most beautiful vocals I think I've ever heard. Utterly phenomenal. I love that song. Southern Belle, a little bit more of an annoyance. I don't know if he's calling out the South here. I'm not even mentioned, but I think I should know this already. I don't off the top of my head, but hey, I'm from the UK. He was born in Nebraska, which I do believe is in the northeast. But for whatever reason, I think he spent a lot of time in the south of the US. But it says here his origin is Oregon, which I think is to the west side. West side. So, holy shit, Elliott was all around the US, really, to be honest with you. I don't know if this is calling out the South. I don't know. It says here family life in Dallas, and I do believe that's Texas, so I don't know. This UK man doesn't understand. Single File, beautiful song, absolutely adore it. Coming Up Roses. Meow. What is that? I don't know what instrument it is at the start, though. Here? I'm a junkyard full of false starts, and I don't need your permission to bury my love under this burr light bulb. The moon is a sickle cell, it'll kill you in time. Beautiful song. And then, it's probably not going to be the favourite Elliott Smith song for a lot of people. But ladies and gentlemen, Satellite is my favourite Smith song. Okay, I just had to cut the video there, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. But yeah, while the hands are pointing up midnight, you're a question mark coming after people you watched collide. You can ask what you want to the satellite. The satellite is likely referring to the moon, Earth's own satellite. Beautiful. A burned out world you know, staying up all night, the satellite. I'm looking at the lyrics here and I'm kind of in disbelief how amazing I find this song when it's so lyrically simple. Although there are a few interesting sentences here, but it's that guitar in the background with his vocals and the way that it comes across. It's just strange. And then down, down, down. A lover's moon, the satellite, because it acts just like lovers do. Oh my god. Alphabet tone. With that harmonica at the start. Absolutely glorious. And this just enhances what made Roman Candles so amazing to me. St. Ides Heaven. This sounds like it should be on either or to me, which is not a bad thing. Everything exactly right when I walk around drunk every night with an open container from 7-Eleven in St. Ides Heaven. High on amphetamines, the moon is a light bulb breaking. More talk about the moon there. I said before, this music sounds great at night time and in winter, in my opinion. And it's a gorgeous chorus and a gorgeous outro. Adore that song. Good to go. We've got an amazing lyric here, ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't need a hero if I wasn't such a zero. And then the white lady loves you more. The most obvious drug reference here, let's admit it, about heroin. It's very blatant, it's very obvious, and it's absolutely glorious. The white lady loves you more. And I can just listen to these songs. I could listen to this album once a day forever and not get bored of it. The replayability of this album is just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, ladies and gentlemen. It's a long time since you cared about me to even be discreet. It's phenomenal. And then the last track on the album, The Biggest Lie. I'm waiting for the train, the subway that only goes one way, the stupid thing that'll come to tear us apart and make everybody late. It sounds like UK transport then. I just told the biggest lie. And it says here the biggest lie is about Elliott talking to a person he cares deeply for right before he kills himself. First explaining what this person has done for him, then pushing them away from him by telling the biggest lie. It's absurdly dark, it's beautiful, it's scathing, it's incredible, gorgeous soft vocals, one of the best singer-songwriters ever. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just about done this under 45 minutes and I'm happy about that. And whilst I talk to you, I don't think the microphone will pick it up, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm listening to The Biggest Lie, and when I stop the video, I'm going to keep listening to it. I might just be tempted, because I've not listened to Elliott Smith's music for a while. I could easily listen to this right now, to be honest with. Oh, I have to reference this album as well. This line as well. I'm a crushed credit card registered to Smith, not the name that you call me with. Elliott Smith is the stage name and not the artist's birth. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been Elliott Smith, ranked worst to best, one of my favourite singer-songwriters of all time. Absolutely adore his music. I wish he was still here. But we'll always have this incredible music. I'm going to now look at other people's rankings, worst to best, whilst I upload this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon, in probably midsummer, about June, July, for that troubled man himself. I don't know how troubled he is, actually. I just know he's a bit of a controversial man. Red House Painters, Mr. Mark Kozolek. But thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.